for games like Rogue.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Rogue-lite Roundup. I'm your host, To Be Decided, and let's talk about roguelikes. This is a show where I like to cover a smattering of roguelikes and talk about briefly the things that I like and don't like about them. If you're not sure what a roguelike is, go check out the first video, I talk about it a little bit. Today, in this episode, we're going to be covering Deep Dungeon, Hand of Fate, and Iris and the Giant. Deep Dungeons of Doom is a roguelike dungeon crawler where you play as a hero or a handful of heroes who are on a quest to, of course, save the realm. Each dungeon is broken up into a discrete amount of floors, with each floor having a different enemy encounter or special event encounters. Combat is unique in the sense that it works on a rhythm-based or almost timing-based. Every character that you get has a different cooldown for their attack. If you make consecutive successful attacks without taking damage, then you build up a combo meter that will increase your experience at the end of each encounter. There is a slight wind-up and cooldown on each attack and defense action, so it's important to learn the patterns of enemies and know when to block perfectly. Also, as you progress through each dungeon, you will gain experience points which will head towards levels up that will increase your stats for that particular run. It is worth noting, however, that level ups don't carry over in between dungeons, only affecting the character on that particular run. Meta progression comes in the form of a skill tree, of which you can unlock points for as you complete dungeons and missions successfully. These points can be spent on any character across the board. You start out with the Crusader character first, who's your basic fighter, and unlock other classes as you progress in the game. Overall, I think this is a pretty fun game, and the timing-based attack and defense mechanics are certainly an interesting concept. I know for sure that this game was originally released as a mobile game, and it really feels like it. There are inclusions of interesting little things like daily challenges to get extra gold, and the fact that you can tap the directions instead of using the directional buttons to attack and defend. All of these things definitely lend more of a mobile game feel, and I think that might be the ideal way to play this. That being said, the art is good, the music is good, there's not much to not recommend about it, just that it wasn't very engaging and I didn't find it that fun to play.
Here is the first member of my court, the Jack of Dust. 12 in all must fall before you may challenge me.
Hand of Fate is a hybrid action-adventure RPG combined with elements of a roguelike deck builder. Instead of having a system where you move up and down floors, completing boss encounters each time, instead Hand of Fate focuses around each having a specific run focused on defeating a specific boss. Once that boss is defeated, you move on to the next one. Gameplay is basically made up of a combination of choose-your-own-adventure story sections that happen when you move on to specific cards, and combat encounters in which you are taken over into a 3D action-adventure system. As you progress in the game, you will unlock tokens, which will be rewards for you for completing special narrative mission sections. These will unlock at the end of each run either more missions, a continuation of that storyline, or just other items and weapons that you can put into your deck at the beginning of each successive run. At the beginning of each run itself, you can choose what weapon, armor, and mission cards go into your hand, and therefore what's going to be showing up in that specific run. Overall, I think this is a pretty cool game and a pretty cool concept. This does fall down in a couple areas for me, however. Specifically, the combat feels really weak and underdeveloped. I don't know if it was maybe just not a focus of the development team or what happened, but it basically uses what is now pretty well established as that Prince of Persia or Batman Arkham Asylum style combat, where you snap to the nearest enemy close to you, as well as being able to manage enemies' attacks via parries or dodge roll. Generally speaking, most combat encounters are fairly trivial, and while they do add complications later on, it basically comes down to a manner of being able to counter things on time and make sure you're getting out of the way of unblockable attacks. Overall, I think Hand of Fate is a pretty cool game, and if you like this sort of deck-building roguelike formula, it might be worth picking up. I also know that there's a sequel out that I haven't tried playing, but might be worth investigating too. Generally speaking, I enjoyed my time with this game and actually ended up playing it more than I think any of the other games that I played this time. So definitely worth checking out.
From up here, I can hear them laughing at me. A storm awakens itself in me. My lungs fill with an immense sea of sorrow. I fall, I dive, and I depart.
Iris and the Giant is also a roguelike deck builder, though it plays something more along the lines of Slay the Spire. In the game, you play as Iris, a young girl who is ostracized by both her peers and distant from her parents, who uses her imagination to fight off demons that are the manifestation of different guilts that she has and shortcomings that she feels she has. Iris and the Giant is not only unique in its art style, combining construction paper cutout looking characters with watercolor visuals, but also the way its combat works is a little bit different from Slay the Spire as well. Each combat section is made up of a 4x3 grid where enemies, items, and the staircase can spawn in and progress down one lane. As you remove things from the lane, everything before it moves upwards. At the end of every one of your turns, any enemy in viable range will do an attack on you. Another unique thing about this game is that, unlike in Slay the Spire, where you continuously recycle your draw pile over and over and over again, cards are a finite resource. If you ever end up running out of cards, then you lose the run. This can be mitigated by being very careful about what cards you are playing and how you're playing them, but also by picking up treasure chests that will appear on the field, giving you access to new packs of cards. Killing enemies will net you stars, 1 star per enemy, or 5 stars for a big enemy. These can be spent on increasing 1 stat point from a variety of stats, though what stat you have access to is random each time.
Talk to her. She's an idiot. She can't even defend herself, see? Stupid, 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 stupid.
Meta progression comes in the form of watching memories of Iris that are littered throughout runs that will give you skill points used to unlock different abilities on a skill tree that will go with you the whole time. One of the cool things about it, though, is that you're able to respec at any time so that you're not locked in on a particular loadout. At the end of every run, you are also given a certain amount of reward cards based on how many stars you earned in the run. These will be things like unique special magical cards or unlocking imaginary friends, which act like a passive bonus for each subsequent run. I know that the roguelike deck building genre has really boomed since Slay the Spire became incredibly popular, and there are a lot of games that try to ape that. I'm really impressed by how Iris and the Giant seems to play in the same complexity space while still managing to innovate a little bit. Although I wasn't ever able to get a successful run in this game, I feel like if I tried without too much more time spent, I would have gotten one. I really enjoyed this game a lot and recommend it heartily. Well, that's about all the time I have for you this time. Hopefully you enjoyed these games, or at least thought it was interesting to hear me talk about them. Of course, you could do all of the things that Papa YouTube wants you to, and engage with the video, and with all that being said, I love you all, I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you in the next one.